That war culminated with a treaty that ceded those lands to the United States and made all of the residents U.S. citizens if they chose to stay.
These Mexican citizens that remained in those territories became American citizens, but I would say second-class citizens.
The very first time when I started to realize that being undocumented was a real big issue was when it was time to start thinking about college. When I was 11, my parents brought me to the U.S. with a tourist visa. They definitely did not think it all the way through. Because then by the time I was 14, my visa expired. That's when this 20-year saga started for me. A month or 2 months after I graduated high school, the state of Texas passed this law.
All in favor say aye. Opposed no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1403 is passed.
Texas was the first state to allow undocumented students to go to college. That completely changed my life forever. That is the point. The point is that these laws that we're talking about, that we think about in very abstract ways, actually impact individual people's lives. Once I was admitted into college, it was like, oh, how are we going to pay for it now? And my parents had this fryer thing. I mean, we sold a lot of funnel cakes. It was good money, but it wasn't enough money to support a family of 4 and to pay for college. It was very clear that the only way I could pay for college was to take 100% of the money we were making at the funnel cake stand. And that's when this decision was made that they would go back to Mexico so that I could continue to pursue this dream. My parents left knowing that I might not ever see them again. And that's the extent of the sacrifice we were all willing to make.
Yo viajo de Nueva York a México todas las semanas. Yo tengo una visa de negocios y de turista, tengo las dos. Yo viajo de México a 2 horas a Puebla y de Puebla a Tlaxcala. Y así llevo 15 años haciendo esto. Largo el viaje todo el día. Hola. Nos vemos, hermana. Buenas tardes. Qué bueno, ¿cómo estamos?
Bien, bien.
Bueno, pues le traje a usted un paquete que le mandó,
Permítame.
que eso es para usted porque él la quiere muchísimo. Quisiera que viera. Está bien bonito lo que te mandó.
8 años.
8 años que está por allá, pues el sentimiento está. La persona que más quiero en la vida. Feliz cumpleaños. Todo mi amor, Flaquita. Te mando un abrazo muy grande, mucho, muy grande. Y bueno, ánimo, que pronto va a estar por aquí. Hola, David, ¿cómo estás? Mis hijos están en la universidad.
¿Qué le vas a mandar con tu esposo?
Pues los chapulines.
¿Puede comer?
Claro, claro.
Uno, solo me voy a comer uno.
¿Sí? ¿Quieres uno? Cómetelo. Dale. A ver, le voy a sacar una foto. Sí. Cheese o tequila, de perdida. Convivo con la gente de aquí de México y convivo con sus familiares allá, entonces conozco las dos historias. Cuando mi padre murió, mi mamá pues no podía ir a trabajar. Tenía que cuidar a todos mis hermanos. porque era una pobreza demasiado extrema. Decidí irme a los Estados Unidos. Yo tenía un sueño, ¿verdad?, de tener una casa, de tener algo diferente. O sea, yo pensaba que ganar dólares era una eminencia, ¿no? Pero no, todo tiene un precio y un costo. Ella quisiera estar aquí, mi chaparrita preciosa, pero no se puede.
¿Qué empiezas a pasar?
Acaba de comer y ya te sirvo agua.
Depende de mí mucha gente.
¿Está ladrando el coffee?
Sí, porque se moría de hambre.
Para mi hija a nivel de vida está mejor allá. Sí, definitivo. Y la universidad de mi hija, que es muy importante para que mi hija sea alguien en la vida. Y yo no pude estudiar, yo siempre quise estudiar. Quise otro tipo de vida para mí, pero fue imposible, imposible. Hay más mole en la cazuela, ¿verdad, mamá? Nos ha tocado duro en pagarle la universidad, pero yo sí quiero que mi hija tuviera otro tipo de vida.
Because of the work she does, I was able to go to college here in New York.
Pues le dije a Isamar, tengo ese dinero para tu universidad. Mamá, ¿por qué no me dijiste?
Didn't have that social security number, so I couldn't apply for any financial aid. I'm very thankful because that was a lot of money that was saved. So I was the first to go to college and graduated this May, saving up now for my master's degree.
The reason so many Mexicans leave Mexico is mainly economic. I would even say purely economic. They want a better life for themselves and their families, with the hope of reuniting.
People are coming for work, doing low-end jobs, the dirty, dangerous, and degrading jobs that native-born Americans don't want to take. Mexican migrants, whether they're documented or not, are fundamental to the American economy at this point. They're maintaining industries like agriculture, textiles, food processing. And for a long time, the movement was largely circular. In the 1940s, Mexican migration was jump-started by mass recruitment under the Bracero program.
Braceros. In Spanish, this means a man who works with his arms and hands.
The Bracero program was a temporary worker program that the United States initiated with Mexico when it entered the Second World War.
Mexico and the United States linked their defenses.
The border was quite flexible. It was possible for Mexicans to keep their residence in Mexico, for the men to come and work in the U.S. for 4 or 5 months and go home for the remainder of the year, raise their children and their families in Mexico.
After 1965, the guest worker program disappears. And so they're transformed basically from documented into undocumented migrants overnight.
But the demand for low-skilled workers continued.
Well, the same Mexicans were coming before 1965 as after 1965, doing the same jobs, the same work for the same employers, except now they were doing it without documents, and they were criminalized.
The problem is that we have a system that makes people, like myself, have to make choices that then turn us into criminals. I never thought I'm gonna go buy fake papers. My two options were I buy fake papers so I can get a job so I can pay for school, or I drop out of school. In those really dark moments in my life, like what kept me going? It's always been about the fact that I know that this isn't just for me. It's about like honoring the sacrifices that my parents made. Like it couldn't have all been for nothing. My biggest fear when I started working on Wall Street was that someone was going to realize that my papers were fake and that the whole thing was going to be over.
No. Yes, salt. Thank you.
I sort of flew under the radar because no one was raiding Goldman Sachs. Once I started getting a little bit of a paycheck, of course it helped, right? I was able to send a little bit of money home. I thought money could solve every problem I had. But the biggest problems in my life, it couldn't solve. I had a ceiling, and it wasn't just the glass ceiling of being a woman and of being a minority. It was this brick wall of being undocumented. For a lot of us, there isn't any pathway to become legalized. So when people say, oh, you're a criminal because you broke this law, because you bought these fake papers, I sort of want to say to them, how about we look at the laws that put people in the position where they have to make these choices?
President Reagan did sign the sweeping new Immigration Reform Act today. He said it protects the sacred possession of American citizenship.
It is true our borders are out of control. It is also true that this has been a situation on our borders back through a number of administrations.
It is the 20 miles east of the Pacific Ocean where 43% of the people are arrested trying to cross illegally.
We started a war on immigrants. In 1986, the U.S. passed the Immigration Reform and Control Act, which began a 2-decade-long process of border militarization.
The Border Patrol has installed a network of electronic sensors to detect the movement of illegal aliens, the so-called people sniffers that were used in Vietnam.
Then took a huge leap forward in 1993 and 1994.
Our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before.
The Border Patrol launched Operation Blockade in El Paso and Operation Gatekeeper in San Diego, the 2 largest crossing points for undocumented migrants. The flows were diverted away from urban areas and pushed into the desert through Arizona, where people began dying of thirst, people began dying of exposure, and the bodies piled up along the border.
America must control its borders. Following the attacks of September the 11th, 2001, this duty of the federal government has become even more urgent.
The irony is, by turning them into undocumented migrants and then militarizing the border, we turned what had been a circular flow of male workers going to 3 states, Texas, California, and Illinois, into a settled population of Mexican families living in 50 states, with the fastest growing Mexican populations in places like North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Nebraska, Minnesota, Ohio, and Alabama.
¿Qué tal mis amigos de XRH Radio Guarachi? Les saluda como siempre su amigo Ismael Amaro. Ya hemos venido platicando con la gente en Tuscaloosa, Alabama, y pues de lo que es, lo que fue y lo que sigue siendo la HB 56.
The irony with HB 56 is that it pushed people to actually sit down, hunker in, and say, no, we're not going to go.
Yo hago la radio de Radio Inmigrante principalmente por la cuestión de que yo hace mucho tiempo yo no sabía nada acerca de mis derechos o qué puedo hacer, a dónde puedo ir, a quién puedo pedirle ayuda. Es por eso que se me ocurrió esta idea de transmitir por lo menos por internet.
Sí. Pues como siempre les digo, infórmense, busquen información, lean, pregunten. Ahí están los amigos de Somos Tuscaloosa y pues bueno, ya saben, en lo personal también pueden mandar mensajes de texto. Ahí está la página en Facebook, la página de Somos Tuscaloosa también. Aunque no son muchos, pero son suficientes para seguir aquí.
These undocumented families literally came out of the shadows and decided to take a stand.
In recent days, the issue of immigration has become once more a source of fresh contention in our country. We all know one clear national standard is needed. And we should stop punishing innocent young people for the actions of their parents. The DREAM Act would do this.
The Democratic leaders of this Congress are now pushing a reckless proposal for mass amnesty.
These are young people who have come to this country through no fault of their own, who want nothing but to achieve the American dream.
I've been working on this issue for 10 years. These people have been waiting for more than 10 years.
We're not going to pass the DREAM Act or any other legalization program until we secure our borders.
At the White House, President Obama has delayed leaving for his holiday vacation to see just how all the votes play out.
Maybe my biggest disappointment was this DREAM Act vote. I am determined, and this administration is determined, to get immigration reform done. It is the right thing to do. I think it involves securing our borders, and my administration has done more on border security than any administration.
Obama, early in his administration, made a calculation that if he was going to get immigration reform, he had to show how tough he was to begin with. The strategy backfired because the Republicans had sworn a blood oath to fight anything Obama did. We are currently deporting almost 420,000 people a year. The large majority are Mexicans. And this is something unprecedented in American history. Every single year we're disrupting families, breaking down doors in the middle of the night, carrying parents off in handcuffs in front of their terrified children. And to what end?